because we're in an
Mm.
abusive relationship with the government.
Yeah.
We are.
Oh, wow.
And right now we're in the phase right before we get blamed for the abuse again. Like the honeymoon phase is about
Mm.
to happen because it's election time. I'm at the point where I don't want to monetize my art if it means me having to be around people who are
How our political ideology and what our desires are under capitalism, it necessitates a certain kind of assimilation, or we commit to being against it in some way.
mm-hmm. I want to do an extensive one about the war on drugs, like
Mm.
front to back extensively, but more about like from survivors of the war instead of like
Mm.
I find the way that we articulate the war on drugs, like documentaries do a little bit better about it. Like this is a racism problem, but like I feel like there's still a lack of humanity when it comes to addiction. So I
Mm-hmm.
really want to frame it in a more empathetic way and really show like no, these were people and moms and dads and families and you know what I mean? Like so that's one that I really want to do. The next two I know are going to be really long. I want to do like a extensive propaganda video, and like
Ooh.
breaking down how propaganda has changed our mindset and around incarceration. But I know there are a few that people made about like Law and Order, and I that's
Yeah.
my guilty pleasure. I'm so
I feel
sorry.
like a good angle, another angle for the propaganda one. I've always been interested in how social media has shifted propaganda, like how cops and like fascists or alt right people participate in like social media trends. Like I think about like the IOF and like
Oh
them posting
yeah.
online and like I don't know. There is and it's like like they're trying to make it parasocial. When I'm like, no, get away
Yeah.
from me. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to see this on my feed.
It's crazy. Yeah, that's such a good point. Like the social media aspect of it for sure. I
The
also
army
want to
streams Call of Duty.
right.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, they stream.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's wild. It's wild. I know, like just take it a sec from that because it's crazy. Another approach on the propaganda one that I wanted to do is like about shows like 60 Days In and First 48 and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like I want to talk about how like in every other so-called developed nation, heavy air quotes, there's no shows like that. Like
Yo. That's real, because that shit is like, why are we here?
why are we here? Like, and that's like being that's what it's like being an anarchist sometimes. You sit down, you're just trying to watch A&E or something, and then you're sitting and you're like, why do we have a fascist reality TV show? Like this is
Mm.
a fascist reality TV show, and people are excited. Like 60 Days In is such a bizarre concept. People are signing up to voluntarily go to jail to help the jail fix the jail instead of listening to incarcerated people about how to
Did you
fix
see the new one, Unlocked, where like they on Netflix and the sheriff didn't get permission from the county and like they went in and they're like, we're gonna unlock all the doors and let it be a social experiment? I
Oh
only got half an
yes,
episode in before I was like,
yes, I saw
Ooh,
that. That
that
was
shit
a
is like
was yes.
Yeah.
flashbacks.
Very
Yeah.
bizarre show. But
And it
same
and it
thing.
and it's yeah, and I feel like so much of it, like the reason I turn away from it, or I can't watch one, I mean, having so many people in my family be incarcerated, and then two, and maybe this sounds weird because I'm like, I do like prison break movies though, but then like
Yes.
that's because it's like people escaping jail, but then when it's like set in a jail or a prison, I'm like, this is making a spectacle of something that I think most people don't even really understand on a general level. So what does it mean that we're making a spectacle out of it? Like it's just very confusing to me.
It's very weird, yeah. I definitely think they just want us to get normalized with the idea of being incarcerated, but also being on camera. But that's
Yeah,
Hmm.
just me.
there
That
was.
remember we were talking about our conspiracy. That's just my.
Well, yeah, okay. So there's also like one of the first experiments in live streaming online was like this sheriff live streaming his jail, and like he got in trouble for a part because like they were live streaming like a little bit of the showers and stuff, and
unbelievable.
He's like one of Trump's like right hand mans in Arizona now too.
I know who you're talking
He
about.
like
Isn't the
made
black
people
guy with the
encampment.
sheriff's hat?
I don't think it's a black dude. I think it's a white dude.
Oh, brother, he got a bunch of
Oh.
he got a bunch of corrupt cops doing terrible things in jail around him. Apparently, because I'm thinking about the sheriff dude because he had a prison too. He was running a prison too, and he had a bunch of beef. I forget his name. I forget.
Running a
You would know him when you see it. He's the only black dude with a giant 10-gallon hat at the Republican convention. Like,
It's Doug Dimmadome.
right, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, just those two, and then my biggest one that I genuinely think is going to be like Malcolm X, Spike Lee long, like 4 hours, would be I want to break down the cycle of abuse and relate it to our relationship with the government. Because we're in an abusive relationship with the government.
Yeah.
We are.
Oh, wow.
And right now we're in the phase right before we get blamed for the abuse again. Like the honeymoon phase is about to happen because it's election time. They're going to try to lure us in before they blame us for whatever we did wrong.
Oh, God. It's just like the fact that it's just the election year element of it makes it real. Because it's like, oh, we need you. Like, I'm Joe Biden. Like, come here, gay people. Like, we need you during Pride Month. And then he's going to fucking blame us.
Right.
Tell me I ain't black enough. I didn't vote for
Oh my gosh.
The fact that on Charlemagne, I was like, that's where I knew nobody cared about Charlemagne no more. But still, too many people do.
Yeah.
Right. It's way too many people. I'm from Brooklyn, so half my family listens to the Breakfast Club. I'm like, decolonize your minds, my people.
Yeah,
like,
you're like, this is the journalism you want?
Did y'all talk about that Eric Adams Breakfast Club? What's her name? Olayemi?
Yes. I'm just so happy that somebody took him to task. Because as soon as he started circling around saying he wanted to be elected, I knew immediately this man was bad news. I knew immediately. But the thing is, the older generation of black folks in New York love him because he is one of them. He is a boomer from Brooklyn.
Like them. Okay.
Yes, he sounds exactly like them. I'm telling you, he could sound like one of my cousins or my uncles. His voice is similar, so like they will let him get away with stuff because we had almost 20 years. I forget when our last black mayor was. I think it was the 80s, maybe 40 years since we had a black mayor in New York. So they're just excited that he's there.
They're eating it up.
Because of that, he's a gremlin. He's like a soulless. I promise you, if there's no haters of Eric Adams, I have left this physical plane. I promise you, I hate him. And I'm vegan too, so I always tell people like he is not the example of vegans who are black and from Brooklyn. I promise you.
Oh, he's vegan?
Not like this. Yes, he's terrible. Oh my god, he gives us the worst rep ever. Like, ew. I don't want people to Google black vegan and then see Eric Adams.
Like, I hope his Satan is fucking dry.
I'm telling you, the one good thing he did, and this is me being very charitable, is that he introduced more vegan food to bodegas.
Yeah, that is good though. When I was
more accessible food, so he made sure.
Yeah, when I was living in New York last year, I liked that they had some vegan stuff at the bodegas.
Yeah, that was him. That was him.
That was him.
That was the one good thing he did. But guess what, y'all? It was selfish. It's because he's vegan. He wanted to be able to go to bodegas and get sandwiches.
One of his vegan
He was doing it because he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go 10 blocks to get a sandwich. He wanted to.
He was like, "I'll cut the price of nutritional yeast so y'all can make the best cheese for me." I swear to God.
That's promise you that's what it is, because everything else he's been doing is cutting funding for everything else. So
libraries.
That was the one thing he added. So you know it's selfish. You're cutting the libraries. New York was the only city in the country that had 7 days a week libraries. And
Really?
now, yeah. Terrible. And like it's one of the only places in the city that is accessible for everyone, that they don't intentionally kick out the
Yeah.
houseless. They like let people stay there. There are some
Mm,
libraries in New York that have like separate lounge rooms where people could just like actually just chill and
Post
lay and
up, yeah.
sleep.
wow.
It's a mess that they took it away, because like think about like a day like today with a heat wave. Like where are people gonna go?
Especially in New York, the heat getting trapped between the buildings.
It's
It's fucking
horrible.
horrible.
It's horrible.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't
Which,
stand Eric Adams. I hate him.
what do we feel like are like certain flashpoints or certain things that we feel like we are at a certain position to talk about being like black anarchists with this kind of thing? Because like one thing I was talking about is like Jonina Urban still alive, Kathleen Cleaver still alive, like Asada technically still alive. Like it'd be great to you know what I mean. Like all these people that are out there, like those are things that like are in my mind around that kind of thing.
It's like, how do we connect with other parts of this like history?
Yeah, like that
Or
in
how
10
can
years we'd probably not be able to.
like how can this work?
Mm.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think I feel like, to maybe some of what you're saying, I am interested in like intergenerational conversations.
Mhm.
Like when I published my book like 2 years ago, I went on book tour, and one of the people I spoke to was Jamal Joseph. He was also in the New York Black Panther Party, but he was a part of the Panther 21. And it was just like interesting talking to like an older black man, a writer, an academic, someone who's in film, someone who's been deeply radicalized. And so I think, to your point, it's like, even with him, I'm like, I want to sit down with him and have a conversation and record it. Like, I do think there is opportunity to kind of, yeah, try to archive and document what we can now, because we're also
Mhm.
living through history.
Sure. Yeah, that's so real. Yeah, to your point, I think the main thing we can do is amplify their stories. There's a reason why, like, I started a series called like Revolutionary Women in History, because there's
Mhm.
just like I was saying before with like Emma Goldman, there's just like so many stories that like get like fall through the cracks, and they're still alive, and you
Mhm.
don't want them to pass away and not get the credit that they deserve or have the ability to really amplify them. So I'm trying intentionally with that series to really highlight women in particular that deserve more flowers, like
Mhm.
Asada and Layla Khalid, who I'm not
Mhm.
sure if y'all are familiar. She's a wonderful Palestinian resistance fighter who's still
Okay.
alive,
Mhm.
and she is banned from her home country, but she still believes that she will die in Palestine, and I
Wow.
love her so much. So
Okay.
just hearing her, her most recent interview that I saw was like November or so, like right after October 7th happened, and while everything was definitely still happening and she was very upset at the increasing of violence, I was just very encouraged by her excitement, because the reason why she was excited is because she's like, no, the intifada is finally global. Like this is something that she's been
Mm-hmm.
always
Mhm.
waiting for. They were waiting for this. So I think if we connect
I
to
mean, they've
our
been making it happen. Like
right,
they've
yes,
been
yes,
direct action gets the
Yeah.
good. They took
yes,
hostages of the 72 fucking
yes,
Olympic game for that reason. Make it global.
yes, yes, absolutely, yeah. So for just being able to talk to them, we can see like how we are helping them. Like they have goals and we're helping them, but we don't know we're helping them. We just need to talk to each other. So
Mm.
we see, oh, we're doing the same things. Like I'm doing what you did. How can you help me do this better? Like,
Yeah.
like they know about stuff that we don't know, that we don't have to go through if we talk to them.
Right.
Yeah. We
Or
can do.
historical opportunities in the moment you want to.
I mean, I guess, to my point about living through history, I guess as a writer, I'm also interested in like, and this was kind of an episode series I presented. Like, I also want to do a series where we do different episodes, but we give tactical reviews and perspectives on different movements of like the last 10, 15 years, like
Oh,
the
I love
US
that.
encampments or Black Lives Matter, or I don't know, just any like mass mobilization. Cause I do think there's a lot of room as organizers to kind of, I feel like the media usually has like a sort of cursory perspective, or they're interested in like the optics. When I'm thinking like with the US encampments, even recently, I'm like, there's so many tactical considerations that people can walk away with thinking about. There's so many kind of like considerations about nonviolence and legibility. Like there's so many movements that have happened in our lifetime that I'm like, I'm interested in engaging with that on a like recent history kind of analytical kind of level, like Standing Rock or Black Lives Matter, or I don't know, like anti-sex work stuff, like so many different things.
I think it's important to highlight more modern examples too, because what I find a lot, especially in my audience, some of them are younger. Like I would say, probably younger Gen Z is a good portion of my audience, but I have a lot of millennials too. Just because I'm a millennial, I guess we just
Yeah.
attract each other. But there are folks who are younger and they're getting into activism now, and a lot of the discouragement I feel from them and hear from them is they think that it's like an intangible thing. So when you use examples from places and organizing that was very recent, it kind of takes away the mystifying veil that people have, like that organizing is something that is beyond themselves and that they could never achieve it. And that's a part of also why I made like a activism 101 video, because I really wanted to explain to people like
Oh.
practically like this is how you organize. And I genuinely
I gotta check that out.
oh yeah,
We
you
watched
should.
a little bit of it, the one with mutual aid.
How do we communicate? How often?
Direct action can also be used to set up networks of mutual aid. 50 years ago, the Black Panthers were faced with the reality of widespread poverty and lack of service provision in their communities. Rather than appealing to the government or the conscience of white America, the Panthers set to work organizing their own health clinics and breakfast programs for hungry school children.
This is how you Google, like, because folks in my comments were like saying how it's impossible for them. And me being a little bit older and organizing, immediately I'm like, what do you mean it's impossible? Like I'm like, what are you talking about? And
It's
then
like poor people organize all the time. What do you think fucking
right,
childcare is, or selling
right.
plates out your back
Oh my
window, or
god,
what the hell?
yes.
Like,
That's why I keep trying to tell people. But then I sat with it and I was like, wait, no, they really just don't know.
yeah,
They straight up are like paralyzed by their fear. So I have to make it accessible for people to know that, like, if you want to organize, no, you can literally Google my city and mutual aid and find out, you know what I mean? So I had to really break it down in that way. And I think, at least for some stuff, when it comes to inviting more people into our mindset, we have to break it down like that to them, and also incorporate skills and things that we learn from older generations, just so people know it's possible. Like, see, they're alive, they're alive,
That's
they
it,
made
yeah.
it through. This is
yeah,
how
because
we did it. I'm alive, I
yeah,
made it through.
yeah, because that's how I feel when a lot of people online are like, I don't know, when either people aren't specific enough about like, oh, we just have to agitate, resist, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? And then the other side is like when people are like, oh, it's insurmountable, or like it's always been like this, and I think the only reason that we're where we are right now is that someone in the past fought to make things better. And it's like, I think it's easy to think that things aren't changing when it's not a part of your world or your environment, or you haven't been a part of it enough to figure out how to leave that environment and to bring it into other parts of your life. Like, no matter where you are, you're a radical or an anarchist or like like decolonial. And I think learning how to participate in this radical culture and then figuring out how to make it your own. Yeah, like to your point, there is a skill to that. Like, how do you approach it? What's your what do they call process of change, praxis, or whatever? I don't fucking know. But yeah,
Your theory of change.
yeah, because even having that video, I could imagine, it being so useful for so many people that are like, I have no fucking clue where to start. I'm like, you start by selling your EBT. That's
Facts.
organizing.
Yeah. I think it's because people think it's like such a separate thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They,
Or
like,
the vision of it that they've seen in the media is like mass mobilization, riots, like
right.
huge campaigns. And I'm like,
I want to move away.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you can organize handing out water in your neighborhood on a hot day. You could organize informing people that the favorite community bar down the street is like closing down. You could organize around like changing what the dress code is at your school for like
Yes.
people of a certain gender identity. It's like all of those are like tangible things. But yeah, I don't know. So it is interesting being this deep into the work. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know how to organize? Like, I get it, but I'm like, our lives are comprised of like, you have a family, you got to learn how to organize your
Right.
family.
It's like also it's about naming it. Like something you said is like naming anarchism through the literature that we've come through, and then also acting as a spotlight for a certain politic or ethical framework, but not necessarily being like everybody around me is an anarchist, and that's
Yeah.
the only way we work with each other. But there's
Yeah.
other different considerations to that and what that
Yeah.
means for what we're actually spotlighting for towards.
Yeah, like the people in my family that are drug dealers who have been undocumented, they have a lot of skills that could benefit me as an anarchist or as like a
Absolutely.
revolutionary. And so it's like, yeah, or even I think about my mom, like having people in our family that were undocumented. It's like you learn to call them a different name on the phone in case you're being observed or wiretapped or something.
Right. Because yeah, to y'all's point, like I was saying before, like to me the most radical thing is when commonplace or what we consider like normal people are participating in anarchism. Like
Yeah.
I think that's like you were saying, when you sell your EBT, or you and your family come together on Sundays and cook together to save money, like that's anarchism. I don't care if you call it anarchism or not. I don't care if you read Noam Chomsky or not. You're an anarchist and you're participating in anarchism. So I think for people who want to be informed about anarchism, they have to really learn how to identify it in their own life so they feel better about being a part of it. Because, like you said before, like there's this grandiose idea that people have about like activism that really separates them, and I think that's why people like to like to your point, Jordan, about like people being like, oh, you want to own land, that's not very anarchist of you. Like people say and do things like that because they're still thinking of anarchism and decolonization and anti-capitalism as a huge problem that they can't do small tangible steps in their day-to-day to unlearn. And like obviously like this might be a challenge for some people. Like I always will keep faith that decolonization will happen in my lifetime, but there's a huge chance that it won't. But that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna stop fighting towards it. I'm gonna try to do everything I can in my life so I reflect my life and my livelihood around anarchist principles, around decolonization. Like I've accepted a long time ago from some of the older activists that I was around. They told me that I'm, activism and this is a lifelong battle, like there's never a point where you're going to be like, yeah, I made it. So like
Yeah.
if you're serious about it, you got to be serious about that and be okay with the fact that like there's
Mhm.
always going to be progress to be made,
Yeah.
Yeah, the forever revolution. I mean, yes, but it's also like little pockets of liberation, pockets of autonomous zones. There's even like the ability for that to grow into something much more beautiful. I mean, I always say it probably won't be leftists that will break down the United States apparatus, but one day this motherfucker's gonna balkanize. And I don't know where I'm gonna be, but hopefully the impact of the people who've impacted me and my labor continues to live on through people who want to do that. And that can grow into something a lot more libertarian, autonomous, and anti-authoritarian than people are already sustaining their lives through. And there's different ways that we can like make material change through that. I mean, one thing you've talked about as an artist, and something I've always thought about, an economy where we can do the art and sustain ourselves and those that are dependent on us will be a day where we're stepped closer towards a sort of socialism or towards a sort of anarchism or economy that actually meets people's needs and respects labor and distributes the wealth of that in a way that is not ableist or in a way that's not like ageist or other ways. Like, you don't have to retire at 70 to not still get the benefits of blah blah
Yeah,
blah, or you
yeah.
don't have to not
Yeah, like what if
engage
you're-
in these
yeah.
certain
Like, what
economic
if you're going through a
paradigms if
mental
you're on
health crisis
disability.
and you need to stay home? Why can't you get paid? Or what if you
Right.
have a kid? Where's your base income? Or you want to contribute to your community creatively? Like, where's the fund for that? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and we can build those things too, like right now. Like the criticism I always get from like communists and other leftists is that like we're utopian as anarchists, and it's like, why not? You know, I used to be like, I'm not utopian, but now I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
Because guess what? This is someone's utopia. Our current
Exactly.
reality,
We're living in someone else's
we're
fucked
living in
up
somebody else's
utopia.
utopia. So why can't we have radical, crazy thoughts about liberation? Because
Yeah,
this is someone else's liberation. You know what I mean? This is
absolutely.
somebody else's dream. We don't have to live like this.
I'm kind of curious, as an artist, how do you think labor organizing is for you? Or as an artist, like what is your approach or understanding of what you can do, organize or help around, or be in a movement around that, or in that new
I
economy?
love that. I love that question. So I recently quit a job that was like very toxic. Thank
Woo!
you so much. I know, like, only anarchists are like, yay,
Yeah,
yay,
like,
Good job.
no job. Like, we're the only ones who are like, abolish work, abolish work. Um, but me leaving that job is a part of the question you just asked. Like, I felt, and I know a lot of people can like compartmentalize parts of themselves where they're like,
Mm,
I can go to work and do that. I personally couldn't. I felt like I was losing pieces of myself in that environment because I was in a place that was perpetuating capitalism and other systems of oppression that I felt were not going to be beneficial in the long run. I like didn't want that to be a
yeah.
part of my legacy, even though it would be a small
Mhm.
contribution. So what I learned, to your point, Jordan, is that I can't be in those spaces. Like, I would rather be working class and struggle. Like, you know, as an artist, I'm a graphic designer. I worked up to the technical point where I was in a more corporate setting, but I hated every second of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going back ever. And I realize it's because the like being working class and being around rich people is violent. Like, I don't care what anyone says.
So real.
It's
That's
very
so.
violent. And so for me to keep myself aligned with the proletariat in my community, I have to be amongst them. So I'm switching back to working class jobs. I will freelance. I'll do whatever I need to survive, but I'm at the point where I don't want to monetize my art if it means me having to be around people who are
Well, I feel like that's so relatable because I just got in this conversation with my sister, and she's like, "You're choosing poverty." And I'm like, in a way,
yep.
in a way, I am. In a way, I'm not. But
Yeah.
like,
Right.
And I think it's, to both of your points, like when I first graduated college, I got a job in Seattle as a workout organizer for a labor union, and it was my first time having salary, first time like having extra money past my rent. I was like working this social justice job, and I was overworked. I fucking hated it. Didn't have any say about like the tactics that I was using, and I don't know, it just exposed this contradiction where I just realized like, oh, in order to be an anti-capitalist adult, like there are very serious decisions that I have to make, and very serious, I don't know, and maybe it's like I would have judged myself if I would have stayed. And this
Yeah.
isn't like, because some people do stay in certain jobs or things out of survival or like a reaction to past trauma, or like maybe, I don't know, whatever it is. And I get it, but I also think, yeah, maybe it's like the anti-authoritarian in me as
Mhm.
well just made it even less, because I'm like, right after college, like
Mhm.
damn near quit almost every job I've had since then, or like, I don't know. And so it's to your point, I think it's like more of like a trying to define our own dignity kind of thing, and
Yes.
that is going to co-opt and exploit whatever you want to do anyway. Let me set some boundaries.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. That's exactly true. And me, I've had pretty much every job in the book, and I've also done sex work. So because of that, I approach it like every job is exploitative of my body and my labor. So how much of my, like you said, where are my boundaries? Where's my personal autonomy in this, you know, so-called contract or relationship I have to make in order to survive? And honestly, I felt more dignified doing sex work than I ever did in a corporate office because they don't think I belong there. I was
Yeah.
there because of my credentials, but they know I'm also not the class that I should be in that environment. Regardless of if I camouflaged or not, like I wore corporate, button ups and all that, but they know from the way we hold our forks, guys. Like they know, they could tell. So because of that, I would rather be with my people. I would rather be with my people instead
Hey,
of
that's why I still
being
don't
around
like
that.
Bridgerton sometimes, because there's that whole scene with there's this black father who becomes nobility and he has to give up his only working class thing, which is being the manager and owner of a bar that served nobility, and he's like not even able to watch his son find the right fork properly and set it on the dinner table because he's too busy working with the ledgers of his own capitalist interests. And it's like, I'm supposed to save you
Yeah.
with what, Jay-Z over here
Yeah.
with like what's happening? I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
But like this is
Right.
Yeah. And it makes me think a lot about, like, this is what I talked about a lot in my Billy Porter Juneteenth video, but um, how our political ideology and what our desires are under capitalism, it necessitates a certain kind of assimilation, or we commit to being against it in some way.
Mhm.
If you want stability, if you want success, if you want like your bills paid, if you don't want to have to worry about certain things, you have to accept certain evils or violences or forms of exploitation. But to go against those things, then you have to be exposed to like the more structural side, or what are we committed to? Like, what do I want to be committed to? Like, what
Mhm.
do I want to be participating in? And I think some people, that question has to matter less because what they're participating in is giving them back so much more financially. It's not worth it.
Yeah. It's really not. It wasn't worth it either, especially since the higher up you go, the more exploited you get. Like salaried workers, if you're an office salaried worker, you don't get overtime. So if you're on a lower level of being a salaried worker, like your entry level 1 to 2 years, 1 to 5 years, they're going to just put all the work on you while the senior people get to go on vacation. So I'm supposed to feel like I've arrived somewhere. Ooh, I'm not working hourly anymore. And I get to not working hourly in a salary position and you're not paying me for the overtime. I'd rather work hourly because I get paid for overtime. If you don't pay me for my overtime, you will lose your business license. Like I would rather be a worker. Like I like you said, Prince, like about like choosing your allegiance, like when you're invited in it, these places they really do want to be like, okay, this is the level of disrespect or
Like, you got to take.
intolerance you have to take in order to be here.
And I'm
But
like, me?
right.
When I had that boycott organizing job, like, they wanted me to work like 60 hours a week. They were being ableist to my coworker. And I was just confused because I was like, so I'm here fighting for other people to have better working conditions and I don't have any say in my own. And then I
Right.
remember in the meeting where it was the meeting
It's a
before they
struggle.
fired me, I was like, oh, it seems like a contradiction that you're so against how capitalism can be exploitative, yet you're you're exhibiting a lot of the same behavior of these bosses.
Right.
I think a great anarchist critique, and also I think could be, which is like kind of like if you want to get to the old communist and anarchism white people debate of like the workers can self manage right now.
Mhm.
We can do it. It's like this hierarchy of admin work being salaried and then above is kind of just colonial, lazy.
Yes,
People.
it is.
Like
Yeah.
you, and like you want to what recreate that, like even and like the old like take over your workplace now ones were like, and then your union leader becomes your shift leader, and now they're the ones that go into the confederation to the next commune.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why can't the workers just delegate everything and have a more participatory economy? And it's like, you want to do what now?
Assimilation assimilation is reform. That was my last video. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
I'm glad that y'all also feel similarly because when I explained to people that I left what considered was like a dream job, right? They think that I'm doing it because like I'm not like making the right choice for myself, or I'm not like cognizant of like my thought process. But to your point, like I feel so free knowing that I made the choice for myself now. And I promise you, I'll never work in corporate again.
Yeah.
Ever, ever, ever. But I decided, like, no, this is where I'm staying. Like, I know people say we shouldn't have class loyalty or whatever. Like you said your sibling was telling you like you're choosing poverty. It's like, yeah, but I'm also choosing freedom up here. Like
Yeah.
I was regressing in that environment because it's so white supremacist and you don't have allies there. So I was starting to internalize the criticisms that they were giving me about me being a creative and stuff like that. I would be making amazing work because I was a graphic designer and doing art direction. So I'd be doing amazing work and they wouldn't tell me when I was doing amazing, even though it was amazing. They would only tell me when I was doing bad. So it was like that for like a year and a half, 2 years. So you start to internalize, am I a good artist? Am I good at this? So that's when I left. I was like, you all are now making me question what I've always known in my heart, like since I was a child, knowing that I'm a creative person.
Yeah.
Right. And it's this job that's making me feel like I'm not good enough. So then I don't need to be here. So I would rather be in the struggle and, I deal with chronic disability. I would rather have my disability flare up and I'm in pain all day, every day, working a retail or food job, being amongst my people, working class people, and then ever being amongst like the managerial class again. I promise you I cannot stand them. In my opinion, managerial class people are more of a threat to us than the rich because they think that they will be rich. So they're the ones kicking us off the ladder. They're the ones doing the Scar Mufasa thing. Like they're Scar. This is how it is, right? We're on a ladder. Working class people were at the bottom of the ladder. They're in the middle of the ladder, so they could see the top and they also see the bottom. So they don't want us to come up, and you know what I mean? Like they'll do whatever they can to keep us down. So I personally think that they're more dangerous than rich people because rich people know we don't like them. Like they know. That's why they don't go out in public and stuff. They're afraid of us. That's why they dress like us now. Like they know we don't like them. But managerial class people, like I feel like they need to know that we have more beef with them. Like we don't trust you either.
If it's like a swing ladder, we can start shaking it till everybody fall off.
That's what I'm saying. Now we all on the ground. What now?
We're all Humpty Dumpty today. We're all Humpty Dumpty today.
Now what? What hierarchy you care about now?
I had a 2016 get out to vote organizing job, and that was also salary, also horrible, also quit it a month and a half in. And my boss at that one, basically, I was hired as like a lead field organizer, which meant I was supposed to like have a team, but I was kind of like, y'all can do what y'all want.
Right.
At my house, and eat pizza if you want. But my boss, who was like supposed to manage me, one of the first meetings, he pulled me aside and he was like, I just want to let you know, like, I get what you're down with. I'm a socialist. And he was like, but we have to like hide in plain sight. And he tried to use that as an excuse to like get me to work 60 hours a week. And I'm just like, I was just confused because I was like, I know what you're doing.
Well, I had a boss, definitely petty bourgeois, and he was like it was like, okay, I'm not gonna get into too much of it, but it was to the point where he called me his knight. Like he had this whole feudal relationship in his head around it. We're like, I'm a king, this is my palace, this is my business, my empire, and like you're a manager now, so you're my knight. And like, I wasn't even salary. I'm like Howard. and like I was not even technically a manager, but like did everything. And it was just like, okay.
The delusion that they have, like you have to buy into that in
I mean,
order
I
for
read
it to
it
make
until
sense.
Yeah. Ride that shit to the
We
wheel.
I don't think we're meant. I'm understanding. There's a pattern, y'all. We have one. We're not built for these spaces, and it's totally okay.
Yeah, it's totally okay. I'm trying to build the co-ops. We're trying to make some money off
Yes.
this. We're trying to get the things going. FYI, we got a Patreon out here. I'm pretty sure Lucretia's got a Patreon too. So we got.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna make one. I need to, because we were talking about before my copyright claims. They're always trying to get me. So
Yeah. Patreon, I'm still trying to get there because it's just like, just asking people to do it all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. So I'm
oh
just
yeah, I know. Like having to like
call to
sell.
action. Use it
Yeah.
as- yeah.
That's hard too as anarchists because we're like, I don't know, just subscribe. But we have to be
I want
like,
to make little commercials.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah,
have
me
to think
too.
about doing like
super satirical commercials.
fake Patreon commercials in our as ad breaks.
Yeah.
I love that. That would be really funny. Actually, we need some parody in there.
Yeah. Have you ever listened to Seriously Wrong?
No, what's that one?
Oh, they're like this anarchist podcast. They're like very library socialist,
Got you.
like kind of vibe. Two white dudes, but they do skits like the whole way through, and it's honestly hilarious. I'm like,
It's a necessary evil because we want to, every leftist, but anarchists in particular, we want to unplug from this system, but we still need to participate in some way. So if we make fun of the fact that we do it, I'm sure that people would like get it and support it, because it's like, yeah, we know you don't want to sell this thing either. Like,
I mean, it's my motto. You have to be as unserious as you are serious.
yeah, I love that. It's true. You gotta sprinkle some humor in. That's what I've been trying to do, especially more recently. Like heavy topics, people think that like we don't have a sense of humor or like we can't see like the irony or humor in certain things in the world. And it's like, actually, I think they work together. Like I am sensitive because I can see the world a certain way, and I can laugh because I cry. Like you can't. I feel like people who don't really pay attention to history and like the world aren't really good at comedy.
Yeah.
That might be a little snobby, but that's real for me.
Don't make me laugh. I'm gonna keep it buck.
Yeah. Because honestly, making a lot of these videos about history, like, there's a lot of it is serious, but a lot of it is actually funny. Like, history is actually, I mean, it's not funny,
right?
But like once you actually read it, like once I start reading about like the Black Panther Party and MLK and like that he kicked Byron Rustin out of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference because people thought they were fucking.
Right.
I'm like, actually funny, but it's some basic black dude shit. And
Right.
that is funny. So I'm like, there is like, I don't know. I feel it because I'm just like, like they were existing in a reality that was like both serious and funny, just like we are. It's like fucking Donald Trump might be president again. It's
Right.
I mean, the fact that Joe Biden's our president is hilarious. That dude was vice president in 2008.
Right. And I thought he was old then. Like I promise you, I was like, this man's old. I promise you. And now I'm like, this is not like. And some of my favorite like anarchists and leaders are in their 80s and 90s, but like, I also don't think that they should be actively like having speeches or like after a certain point, it's like it's okay like for you to rest. You need to rest.
People find you, and what are you working on right now?
Cool. Okay, so like I mentioned, my most recent vid, just put it up for Juneteenth and Pride, is about the death of disco, and techno, the birth of techno and house music. That's on my YouTube channel. Lucretia McEvil, I will spell it because I know people have challenges. It's LucretiaMcEvil. If you look up Lucretia, I'll pop up. I got it from a funk song, and everyone is like, Thank you. Everybody's like, why did you pick that? I'm like, it's a funk song. I don't know. I like funk music. So yeah, that's where you can find me. All of my links are under snipfeed.co/McEvil. So that's where my SoundCloud is, my YouTube, TikTok, all that jazz. You can follow me there. And the next video I'll be working on will most likely be about Lucy Parsons and Emma Goldman.
Yes. I'm Jordan, part of the Dugout, and you can find our stuff at the Dugout Podcast on Instagram, and we'll have a link in the bio there that you can listen to it wherever you want. Newly on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
Finally got in. It took 6 months.
Oh, that's amazing then. Congrats. I'm
Yeah,
glad that you're finally in.
Technical difficulties.
Always something, right?
And my name is Prince. I'm also on the Dugout. You can find us on social media. I also have a YouTube channel where I share a lot about the writing life, about queer, Black, radical perspectives on history, anarchism. And I also run like a newsletter called Millennial Writer Life. And I have a book out. It's called When They Tell You to Be Good. And I think I'm putting out like a small collection of essays this month as well called Black Radical Reader. So if folks want to find that, they can. Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. This was fun.
Yeah.
For more.
Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.